I had the privilege of going through the first 10 years of my career of doing it. The first 5 was threads were breaking all the time. We would put them in a cheek and they'd end up down by the neck. We
Yeah.
would end up putting it in the cheek and it'd come out the nose. This is craziness.
Yeah.
So that's the importance of picking a good company when you're laying down the threads. You want to make your choices wisely so that you don't have those side effects in the end, but they
Uh,
can all be taken care of.
You've experienced quite a few threads. One of the things that you and I got to meet on is multiple different companies that I worked with. You tried them all from my experience. You tried them. You are not one to not physically try a thread or see how those threads, and you talked about threads breaking, which is where I advocate for thickness of thread snap. What's your experience with trying all these different companies? And I'm sure that's what brought you to Les Encres at the end, but what's your experience with using them?
I think that actually drove my passion even more because I knew that it wasn't my technique. And I knew that I could put it in and wow, how could this happen? So I soon realized that's why I went and actually looked at the companies and how it's manufactured because the way that it's laser cut and the way that those threads are cut and the position of those barbs mean everything.
Yeah.
How many barbs do you have on it? What are they positioned? How deep is that cut? Is that cut not going to be deep enough to where it's going to grab onto skin? That's the whole purpose of us doing the procedure is to grab onto that skin and be able to pull up. So that was very important. And the companies that I did, some of them were crumbling before I could get them in the face. I know that I took care of that thread. I know that I did everything I could possibly do, as in the proper storage and so forth. We discovered over the years, they were just coming out of normal packets to begin with. And now we've evolved as to the packaging actually enhances the longevity of the thread. The threads were all over the board. And it mainly was the laser cuts were big enough to actually create the actual pool. And that pool was happening in the beginning. And then all of a sudden they would be sliding around everywhere. And so we soon discovered that just having the barbs on one side, maybe we should have them on both sides. And then it evolved to, oh, now we're going to go around 360. We're going to put the barbs 360. This whole industry has evolved over time. What I was doing to my first 100 patients, I'm just so glad that they stuck with me. And now the threads are much better because they remember, they laugh about it now. It wasn't too funny in the very beginning, but that's what we had to deal with. We
Yeah.
only had one company for the longest time.
Yeah.
And I taught with them, teaching all injectors with this in the very beginning. In the beginning, it was such a hot thing that everybody wanted to learn. Then we didn't have the good threads that made us look good. And we could do all the skills right, but the thread wasn't correct.
Yeah.
So thank goodness that the research and the development and the process that Les Encres has been over the last years has just evolved into the best quality threads that one could get. I
Yeah.
use these threads. They are the best on the market and they make me look good. It's my skill, then the good thread, and voila, we have a good outcome.
You're an educator, you're a private trainer. What do you offer as a private trainer?
I look to see what you want to learn. What is your goal? And we will take it according to that. The training is customized according to your skill level and to what you want to do. Some people want to dive in, they're like, I want to do everything. I'm like, listen, we have to take it little and baby steps. I've even evolved. When I first started teaching for threads, I had one course and we did everything in one course. I was exhausted in the end. People were so overwhelmed. I think there was still a fear factor, right? The goal is for you to come out not to have that fear factor, to be, wow, maybe you went into it with some fear, but you're coming out of it like, I've just done 4 patients and seen the difficulty of how to place a long thread versus a short thread and overcome how to do that. I teach you techniques on how to place them so that you're not hills and valleys in the skin and it's
Yeah.
nice and smooth, right? That prevents side effects. So everything that we go into that teaching is to prevent side effects. The goal is to get you very comfortable at whatever level you're at. We keep the courses very small And some are private trainings because people want that one-on-one. I want to do 5 patients all day today with you. And I want to learn all different tidbits that has to do with threads. And some of them are a small group with no more than 5. And then you just keep changing and you're injecting all 5 patients. You're placing maybe 3 or 4 threads and then letting somebody else do it. So your goal that day, whatever that is, if it's a private training or group training, we want you to be totally comfortable with it. An hour and a half to 2 hours of didactic. And we're going to go through how to place these threads the proper way and maybe in what combination. Give a little bit of background, and then we're going to go in and do 4 or 5 patients. And that doing makes sense.
Yeah.
Everybody has told me that's come to the course that's taken other courses. Oh, yeah, I took a thread course. Yeah, I learned about it. And then I went in and placed 2 threads. And I'm like, what? You
Mm.
placing 2 threads is not going to, I'm sure that didn't make you comfortable. And they're like, I don't even know what I
No.
was doing.
Yeah.
I don't
No,
even know if it was in the proper plane.
I've heard that
So
so many times. I only put 2 threads. Yeah.
and we have expert injectors over you so that we're working right there. So when you're putting that thread in, we're giving you tips along the way. And before you know it, by the end of the day, you know what you're doing. You can place an order and you can actually specify, oh, you know what? I like this thread. I like that thread. And I definitely want to order these threads.
Yeah.
So they know by the end of the training in that 8-hour period, what threads are used for what areas and what threads I'm going to use. And we try to offer as much variety in the training so that you get to see a little of each thread and what areas that would benefit. So I think that comfort level of having that hands on is everything. And when you're done, you're fine. We focus it as in we're doing smooth and twist threads in the beginning. You know what? We only have 50 different threads to use now. So
Yeah.
we simplify it for you.